Everyone needs silver. Silver is like water to a dying man in the desert. Let's do a thought experiment for a minute, okay? And let's just think for a second, if all of the gold left the planet right now, what would happen to the world? And the answer is all these wedding rings would go away, and a lot of gold jewelry would be gone, and gold bugs would be upset that their money's gone, and I would too, I'm a gold bug. But really the world wouldn't change very much. But if you do that same thought experiment with silver, and all the silver left the world instantaneously, we wouldn't be making this video right now. Your BlackBerry wouldn't work. No laptop in the world would work. All the communication services around the world would cease and be gone instantly. All the electricity in the world would be gone instantly. In other words, the high-tech society, the world that we presently live in, is so dependent on silver, yet no one stops to think of the absolute fact that it's so indispensable that we can't have our way of life without it. Right now, the United States Geological Survey said that there's roughly 9 years worth of silver in the ground right now, which is roughly 9 billion ounces or so. And it sounds like a lot, but at the current usage rate of about 800 million ounces on an annual basis, again, it's 9 years. Now, we need to qualify some terms. That's economic silver, and that study was done when silver was probably around $15 the ounce. So now that we're at 26, some of that uneconomic silver becomes economic to mine. But what we really should look at, I think, is history. And what we look at from like, say, 1960 till today, we've been in a structural deficit with silver for a very long time. And we keep using more and more than we're making from mining activity, generally speaking. There's been a few years where that's not true. But overall, the big trend is more and more silver is used in applications that it's very hard to retrieve. So are we going to run out? Probably not. But we are getting to a point like other elements where it's becoming scarcer. Gold's actually hit a peak already, but again, gold isn't as useful as silver. It could be substituted for silver in some applications, but why would you substitute something that costs $26 the ounce with something that costs $1,400 the ounce? It doesn't make economic sense to do so. So silver is indispensable as far as the substitution model. There isn't anything that can substitute silver that conducts electricity as well. There's nothing that can substitute for silver that reflects light as well. So it's a unique metal. My predecessor, who I doubt very many people know, was named Jerome Smith. And Jerome Smith wrote Silver Prophets in the 70s, Silver Prophets in the 80s, The New Boom in Silver. He wrote several books on silver, investing in the money markets. And his formula was that silver would be about $200 the ounce by about 1990. And his whole argument was basically this supply and demand argument. And if you look back, and I want to see where he made a mistake, because I read him for years and years, and he's very smart guy. But he made obviously a very bad assumption somewhere. So I went back and looked at his work again, and I missed it, and again, and I missed it. And the third time I saw his big flaw. And his flaw was that mining activity of silver had peaked out at 350 million ounces of silver per year. And he was right, based on the data he had at that time. But just about the time that last book was published, we found new mining techniques where open pit mining became profitable, very profitable, and a lot more silver was being mined through new mining techniques. And that took the silver mining average from 350 to today's about 650 over the last several years. So we never know what the next mining technique is. I don't know. I can't look in the eye and say, you know what, it's going to be this. But there may be technology out there that will be developed. So I'm certainly not going to rule that out. But as it stands right now, from what we know, we've got probably another 10 years at current rates for silver. But the demand keeps increasing. With China coming on board, India coming on board with higher tech societies. There'll be more cell phones sold next year in China than all the rest of the world combined. China has taken on buying more automobiles than what's sold in the U.S. last year. The things that I would look for would be, have they done it before? You know, what's the management team? And then you got to look at do they have enough money to really give it a good shot. If they got $1 or $2 million raised, it's probably not enough for a grassroots greenstone type of, we've never been there before. We got a satellite image only and go drill it and find if something's there. But it's very, very difficult. What people don't understand about the sector and investing in general is you're much better off for an exploration company that actually does find something to let them find it and then buy the stock. And you'll have to do it quickly, but the stock will run very rapidly to a high price. But it's much safer. It's called buying the growth curve. You let them do all this work for 7, 8, 9 years, it varies with the company, until they finally get into a profitable situation and they start to grow the company. And that's when you buy it. You buy it there. You let them do their thing for 7 or 8 or 9 years. In an exploration company, it probably doesn't take 7 or 8 or 9 years. It might take 2 or 3. But once they hit that sweet spot where they actually have something that might become a mine, which is, again, 1 in 2,000, that's when you buy it. But most people won't. It's really money. The subset of the Silver Investor, or the Morgan Report, really is money, metals, and mining. I'm fascinated with the history of money and what's taken place through civilizations, not only from a monetary perspective, but also from a moral and ethical perspective. What the crowd psychology is, what motivates people, and as the deterioration or the debasement of the currency, we see a simultaneous debasement of the moral structure of the society. You see the leaders becoming so corrupt that you can't believe anything that's said in the mainstream press or in the mainstream news media. So these cycles actually repeat again and again, and that is really what fascinates me. My mission statement is to teach and empower people to understand the benefits of an honest financial system. Gold and silver are actually not even in my mission statement, but they're imperative at this point in time to it. Because unless you understand the moral decay and the debasement of a currency and how they work hand in hand, you don't understand the absolute necessity of being in a hard, tangible asset class, particularly the money metals. There's other classes you could be in, the commodities in general, but they're not as important as the one and only money metals, gold and silver. Actually, we were one of the first in the Morgan Report to look at the rare earth elements. Now, not all these are technically metals, but there are technically very important elements on the periodic chart that are very important for very high-tech applications like flat-screen TVs, Blackberries, a lot of high-tech applications. And those have gone really strongly higher in the last few years. We were at one of the first to actually start reporting on that, and China has about over 90% of the rare earth element market tied up. So not only is it an extremely small market, an extremely important market, but it's a very politically agitated market, meaning that there isn't much rare earths outside of China that are being developed. Now there's a scramble to get them right now, but all over the world. But China basically makes the market. So they've used it for political power recently with Japan. I mean, if no rare earth elements came out of China as an example, and I'm not saying that's going to happen, but as a thought experiment, you would be looking at Sony and Mitsubishi and some of these companies in Japan who would be basically out of work because without the raw material to produce their products, they can't produce them.